What if 1 year, planned the right way, could change the direction of your entire life? What if success didn't require constant hustle, but a clear system that quietly compounds over time? Welcome to Growth Listen. Today, we explore the 6-3-2-1 month formula that quietly builds unstoppable success. This audiobook reveals the exact planning system elite performers use to turn 1 year into a lifetime of momentum. Instead of overwhelming goals or endless to-do lists, this method breaks time into focused phases: 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, and 1 month, each with a specific purpose. The result is clarity, consistency, and progress you can actually sustain. You'll learn how to prioritize what truly matters, eliminate distractions, and build steady forward motion without burnout. This isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter, with intention and direction. If you're ready to stop feeling busy and start feeling control of your time and results, you're in the right place. Chapter 1. Stop living randomly. Start living in cycles. Most people are not failing. They are drifting. There is a difference. Failure means you aimed at something and missed. Drifting means you never aimed at all. You wake up. You react. You respond to messages. You chase what feels urgent. You follow motivation when it shows up and disappear when it doesn't. Days pass. Weeks blur. Months vanish. And 1 year later, you're asking the same question you asked last year. Why am I still here? Here's the hard truth. You are not disorganized because you are lazy. You are disorganized because you are planning emotionally instead of structurally. Emotional planning sounds like this: I'll start when I feel ready. I'll focus once things calm down. I'll push harder next week. Structural planning sounds different. This is a phase I'm in. This is what matters right now. This is what I ignore on purpose. Elite performers do not live in emotional chaos. They live in cycles. And cycles create certainty in an uncertain world. When you live randomly, every day feels heavy. Every decision drains you. Every setback feels personal. When you live in cycles, you stop asking, "What should I do today?" You already know. This chapter is about replacing randomness with rhythm, confusion with clarity, reaction with intention. Because once you understand cycles, your anxiety drops and your results rise. Let's break this down. Most people believe they need more motivation. They don't. They need fewer decisions. Random living forces you to decide everything, every day. What to focus on, what to ignore, what matters now, what can wait. That level of decision-making exhausts the mind, and an exhausted mind defaults to comfort. This is why people scroll instead of build, why they plan instead of execute, why they stay busy but never move forward. Cycles remove decision fatigue. A cycle tells you, for this period of time, this is the priority. Everything else is secondary. Some things are irrelevant. That's it. You stop negotiating with yourself. Elite performers understand this early. Athletes don't train randomly. They don't wake up and say, "Let's see what I feel like working on today." They move in seasons. Off-season is for rebuilding weaknesses. Pre-season is for sharpening skills. Competition season is for execution. Recovery season is for rest and repair. Each phase has a purpose. Each phase has boundaries. Each phase ends. They don't panic because they're not doing everything at once. They trust the cycle. Now look at CEOs. High-level operators don't try to scale, optimize, innovate, and expand all at the same time. That's how companies collapse. They move through phases. There's a vision phase, a build phase, an execution phase, a review phase. During a build phase, they don't obsess over perfection. During an execution phase, they don't keep changing direction. During a review phase, they don't pretend mistakes didn't happen. They respect timing. Investors do the same. They don't buy and sell based on daily emotions. They think in cycles. Market cycles, economic cycles, risk cycles. They know when to be aggressive. They know when to be defensive. They know when to wait. Waiting is not laziness when it's strategic. Now compare this to how most people live. They try to improve their career, fix their finances, build confidence, get in shape, start a side business, heal emotionally, and plan their future, all at the same time. That's not ambition. That's self-sabotage. Random effort produces random results. Cycles create focus, and focus creates momentum. Here is the rule you must internalize. You cannot optimize everything at once, but you can dominate one phase at a time. Living in cycles doesn't mean doing less forever. It means doing less now, so you can do more later. This is where patience comes in. Elite performers are patient with phases and aggressive with execution within the phase. Amateurs are impatient with results and inconsistent with effort. When you don't have cycles, every delay feels like failure. Every obstacle feels like a sign to quit. When you have cycles, delays are data. Obstacles are expected. Nothing feels personal. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What does this phase require?" That question changes everything. So, what does this mean for you practically? First, stop planning your life week by week. Weeks are too small. They create urgency without direction. Second, stop planning your life year by year. Years are too vague. They create dreams without structure. Cycles live in the middle. Months are long enough to create change, short enough to maintain urgency. This audiobook is built on one core belief. Your life improves when your time horizons are intentional. Right now, your job is not to fix everything. Your job is to identify what cycle you are in. Are you in a rebuilding phase, a clarity phase, an execution phase, a recovery phase? Most people are stuck because they're trying to execute when they should be rebuilding, or resting when they should be pushing, or dreaming when they should be committing. Misaligned effort feels like burnout. Aligned effort feels like progress. Here is a simple behavioral instruction you must follow starting today. Stop asking, "What do I feel like doing?" Start asking, "What does this phase demand?" If you are in a clarity phase, your job is thinking, journaling, cutting distractions, and saying no. Not hustling, not scaling, not forcing results. If you are in an execution phase, your job is repetition and discipline, not overthinking, not changing plans, not chasing new ideas. If you are in a proof phase, your job is measurement and adjustment, not ego, not comparison, not shortcuts. Cycles protect you from yourself. They protect you from emotional decisions, from comparison, from quitting too early or pushing too long. And here is the most important part. Cycles end. This gives your brain relief. When things are hard, you don't panic because you know the phase has a boundary. When things are good, you don't get lazy because you know the phase has a purpose. Random living has no finish line. Cycles always do. That's why they work. In the next chapters, you will learn the exact 6, 3, 2, 1 structure. But before you move forward, this chapter has one demand. Make this commitment. I will stop living randomly. I will stop reacting to every impulse. I will stop expecting clarity without structure. From this point forward, you are a person who moves through phases on purpose. You don't need more motivation. You need a system that tells you what season you're in. And now you have one. This is where discipline begins. Chapter 2. The 6-month vision. Build direction before you build speed. Speed without direction is not progress. It is acceleration toward the wrong destination. This is where most people destroy their own potential. They move fast. They stay busy. They take action. And still, they go nowhere. Why? Because they skip the most important phase, direction. The 6-month vision exists for one reason, to stop you from wasting effort. 6 months is not random. It is long enough to force honesty, short enough to prevent procrastination. A week is too small. You lie to yourself. You say, I'll fix it next week. A year is too big. You fantasize instead of decide. You say, I have time. 6 months removes both illusions. You cannot hide, and you cannot drift. This phase is not about doing more. It is about removing what does not belong. Elimination is the real work here. This is where weak goals die. This is where distractions lose their power. This is where you choose one direction and betray the rest. That will make you uncomfortable. Good. Comfort is the enemy of clarity. Most people want to add something to their lives. A new habit, a new income stream, a new routine, a new identity. But addition without subtraction creates overload. Overload leads to burnout. Burnout leads to quitting. Quitting leads to shame. And shame keeps people stuck for years. The 6-month vision works in reverse. You start by asking hard questions. What am I doing that looks productive but produces nothing? What am I saying yes to that is stealing energy? What goals sound impressive but don't actually matter? You do not answer these emotionally. You answer them strategically. Here's the rule. If something does not serve the next 6 months, it is noise, not evil, not bad, just noise. Noise must be cut. This is why businesses fail when they scale too early. They add employees before systems. They add products before clarity. They add marketing before demand. From the outside, it looks like growth. From the inside, it is chaos. Individuals do the same thing. They start 5 goals at once. They read 10 books at the same time. They follow 20 mentors with conflicting advice. They call it ambition. It is actually avoidance. Avoidance of commitment. Because once you choose one direction, you must accept the cost of ignoring others. That scares people. So they stay open, flexible, undecided, and stuck. The 6-month vision forces a decision. Not a perfect one. A committed one. Here is what you must understand clearly. You are not choosing your entire future. You are choosing the next phase. 6 months does not lock you in forever. It gives you a container to operate inside. Inside that container, clarity emerges. Without it, everything competes for your attention. Now let's get practical. During the 6-month phase, your primary job is thinking, not hustling, not grinding, not proving anything. Thinking. That scares people because thinking looks like inaction. It is not. Thinking is preparation, and preparation multiplies execution. Here is what you must do in this phase. First, define one central objective. Not 10, not 3. 1. This objective should meet 3 criteria. 1. It moves your life forward meaningfully. 2. It is measurable. 3. It demands focus. Examples are simple, not glamorous. Build one monetizable skill. Stabilize my finances and eliminate debt. Establish a daily discipline I can keep. Clarify my long-term career direction. If your goal requires constant explanation, it's wrong. If it excites your ego more than it changes your behavior, it's wrong. Second, identify what must be removed to support this objective. This is where most people fail. They set a goal, then they keep living the same life. That never works. If your goal is focus, distractions must go. If your goal is growth, comfort must go. If your goal is clarity, noise must go. This includes people, habits, commitments, content consumption. Yes, even good things. Not everything that feels good deserves a place in this phase. You are not quitting forever. You are pausing intentionally. Third, create constraints. Constraints are not limitations. They are guides. Elite performers thrive on constraints. Time blocks, rules, boundaries. For the next 6 months, decide, what do I say no to automatically? What do I protect aggressively? What do I repeat daily? Remove optionality. Optionality is seductive. It makes you feel free. It makes you ineffective. When everything is an option, nothing becomes priority. This phase also demands patience. Clarity does not arrive instantly. It reveals itself through repetition and reflection. Some weeks will feel boring. Some days will feel slow. That is not failure. That is alignment settling in. People quit here because they expect fireworks. They want excitement. But direction is quiet. It feels like certainty without applause. And that's why it works. Here is something you must stop doing immediately during this phase. Stop chasing speed. Speed is addictive. It feels productive. It looks impressive. But speed amplifies mistakes. If you move fast in the wrong direction, you don't arrive sooner. You arrive further away. This is why individuals fail when they act before thinking. They start businesses they don't understand. They quit jobs without a plan. They commit publicly before they are internally ready. They mistake movement for progress. The 6-month vision prevents this. It forces you to slow down strategically so you can move faster later. Think of it like aiming. No one mocks the archer for taking time before the shot, but everyone wonders why they miss when they rush. This phase is you aiming. So here is your assignment. Write down the next 6 months. Not in detail, in direction. Answer these questions honestly. What is the one thing this phase is about? What am I willing to sacrifice to make it work? What will I ignore without guilt? Then make a decision. And once you decide, stop redeciding. Doubt is allowed. Indecision is not. Clarity is not about certainty. It is about commitment despite uncertainty. At the end of these 6 months, you will not be perfect. You will be positioned to execute, positioned to focus, positioned to build momentum. And that is the real advantage, because speed only matters once direction is locked. Chapter 3. Why most people skip the hard part and pay for it later. Most people don't fail because they lack effort. They fail because they refuse boredom. They want action without alignment, results without patience, success without the uncomfortable silence of preparation. They want to feel like they're moving forward immediately, and that desire sabotages everything. Here is the hard truth you need to hear clearly. The hard part is not working hard. The hard part is working slow when your ego wants speed. The 6-month phase feels slow for a reason. It strips away stimulation. It removes novelty. It forces you to face what you don't know. And most people cannot tolerate that. They confuse boredom with stagnation. They confuse quiet with failure. They confuse patience with weakness. So they skip the phase that actually builds power. They rush to monetize before they can deliver value. They rush to scale before they can sustain. They rush to be seen before they are solid. From the outside, they look ambitious. From the inside, they are unstable. This is why people burn out early. Why projects collapse suddenly. Why confidence disappears the moment resistance appears. They built speed on sand. The 6-month phase exists to prevent this exact outcome. But it requires something most people don't want to give: time without applause. Let's talk about alignment. Alignment means your actions match your direction. Your habits support your goals. Your daily behavior makes sense for where you're going. Most people are misaligned. They say they want freedom but build dependency. They say they want mastery but chase shortcuts. They say they want wealth but avoid discipline. Alignment takes time because it requires correction. You must unlearn before you can build. You must remove before you can add. You must slow down enough to notice what's broken. That is boring. There are no dopamine hits in correction, no public wins in foundation work, no instant validation. That's why people skip it. They tell themselves stories. I'll figure out as I go. I'll learn faster once I start earning. I don't need to master it. I'll outsource it. These are lies people use to avoid discomfort, and the bill always comes due. Here is a clear example. Learning skills before monetizing versus chasing money with no foundation. The first path feels slow. You study, you practice, you fail privately, you improve quietly. No one claps. No one notices. Nothing looks impressive. The second path feels exciting. You launch quickly. You sell aggressively. You promise big. For a moment, it feels like progress. Then reality hits. You can't deliver consistently. You panic when clients ask questions. You overpromise to cover insecurity. Stress replaces confidence. Short-term money replaces long-term growth. Eventually, you either burn out or get exposed. The slow path wins every time, but only if you stay on it long enough. This chapter is about understanding why your mind resists that path. Your brain is wired for immediate reward. It wants certainty now, validation now, progress now. The 6-month phase delays reward on purpose. It teaches you to tolerate discomfort without quitting, to work without feedback, to build trust with yourself. That is the real muscle being trained here. Self-trust. People who skip the hard part don't trust themselves, so they seek external confirmation. Money, likes, praise, attention. They use results to feel worthy instead of competence. And when results disappear, so does their confidence. Here is something you must accept. Boredom is a signal of depth, not danger. When things feel repetitive, it means you are finally focusing. When things feel slow, it means you are building correctly. When things feel quiet, it means noise has been removed. That silence scares people, because in silence, excuses die. You can no longer blame confusion. You can no longer hide behind busyness. You are left with one question. Am I willing to do the work that doesn't reward me yet? Most people answer no. They jump ahead. They try to execute without preparation. They try to perform without practice. They try to win without patience. And they spend years cycling between excitement and disappointment. The 6-month phase breaks that cycle, but only if you stop resisting it. Here is what you must do during this phase. First, embrace delayed gratification intentionally. Do not wait for motivation. Do not wait for proof. Decide in advance that this phase is about planting, not harvesting. Tell yourself clearly, I am not behind. I am preparing. Repeat that when boredom hits. Second, focus on skill before exposure. If you want to speak publicly, train privately. If you want to lead, learn systems. If you want to earn, build competence. Exposure without skill creates anxiety. Skill without exposure creates confidence. Confidence compounds. Third, measure progress differently. Stop measuring wins by money, praise, or speed. Measure by consistency, by clarity, by reduced confusion. Ask better questions. Do I understand this better than last month? Am I less scattered than before? Do my actions feel more aligned? These are real indicators of progress. Fourth, stop consuming advice that contradicts your phase. This is critical. During the 6-month phase, motivational content is poison. Grind harder. Move faster. Just start. Those messages are not for you right now. They create pressure to perform before you are ready. You must protect your mental environment. Consume content that reinforces patience, mastery, and depth. Ignore anything that makes you feel rushed. Speed will come later. Right now, restraint is power. Here is what you must stop doing. Stop comparing your Chapter 1 to someone else's Chapter 10. Stop announcing plans you haven't committed to. Stop changing direction every time discomfort appears. Discomfort is not a signal to pivot. It is often a signal to stay. Most people never get good at anything because they leave too early. They leave when boredom arrives. They leave when progress slows. They leave when novelty fades. Elite performers stay. They stay long enough for effort to compound, for understanding to deepen, for identity to form. That is why they look lucky later. Luck is patience rewarded. The 6-month phase is where this patience is built. It teaches you to work without applause, to trust the process without evidence, to endure the hard part without escape. If you can do that, everything changes. Because once alignment is built, action becomes effective. Once patience is trained, speed becomes safe. Once the foundation is solid, pressure doesn't crack you. Most people skip the hard part, then spend years fixing the damage. You are doing the opposite. You are paying the price early, so you don't pay it forever. Chapter 4. The 3-month execution window. Turn clarity into momentum. Clarity without execution is fantasy. Execution without clarity is chaos. Now that direction is set, speed becomes safe. This is a mistake most people make. They either move fast with no plan, or they plan endlessly and never move. This chapter is where that imbalance ends. The 3-month execution window exists for one reason: to convert clarity into momentum, not inspiration, not hype, momentum. Momentum is earned through repetition, not intensity. This phase is not about doing everything. It is about doing one thing relentlessly well. Let's establish the rule immediately. Perfection is irrelevant. Consistency is everything. If you aim for perfection, you will hesitate. If you aim for consistency, you will move. And movement creates feedback. Feedback creates improvement. Improvement creates confidence. This is the compounding loop most people never enter. Why? Because they widen their focus instead of narrowing it. They take a clear 6-month direction, then dilute it with options, new ideas, new strategies, new distractions, and momentum dies before it starts. The 3-month window solves this by imposing rules. Rules remove negotiation. Negotiation kills execution. Here is what this phase demands from you. First, narrow your actions to a small, repeatable set. This is critical. You do not need more tactics. You need fewer behaviors done consistently. Ask yourself, what are the 2 to 3 actions that directly support my 6-month objective? Not indirectly. Directly. Examples are simple. If your goal is skill building, daily practice, weekly review, monthly feedback. If your goal is content creation, one format, one platform, one schedule. If your goal is financial stability, daily spending awareness, weekly budgeting, monthly evaluation. Anything outside this set is optional at best and destructive at worst. Second, lock the window. 3 months means 3 months. No pivoting, no reinventing, no chasing new ideas. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They mistake discomfort for misalignment. They mistake resistance for failure. But resistance is expected. Execution always feels heavier than planning. Planning is clean. Execution is messy. You must expect friction, missed days, imperfect output, low energy sessions. None of these mean you are failing. They mean you are executing. Here is where the example becomes clear. Creators who post daily without a plan burn out. Why? Because daily output without structure creates pressure. Pressure without clarity creates anxiety. Anxiety destroys consistency. They wake up every day asking, what should I post today? That question alone drains energy. Creators with a 90-day execution window don't ask that question. They already decided. Same format, same schedule, same rules. They remove choice. And in removing choice, they remove fatigue. This is why they scale. Not because they are more talented, but because they last longer. This phase is about endurance, not brilliance. Brilliance burns out fast. Endurance wins slowly and permanently. Here is another hard truth. You will not feel motivated during this phase. Motivation is unreliable. It spikes and crashes. Discipline is what carries momentum forward. And discipline is not intensity. It is predictability. Doing the work even when it feels average, even when results lag, even when no one notices. Especially then. This phase trains you to separate feeling from actions. You do the work because it is scheduled, not because you feel inspired. That is how professionals operate. Now let's talk about feedback. Execution without feedback becomes delusion, but feedback must be structured. Do not evaluate daily. Daily evaluation creates emotional swings. Instead, review weekly. Once a week, ask, what worked? What didn't? What stays the same next week? Notice what is missing from that list. No panic. No overhauls. No emotional reactions. Small adjustments only. This keeps momentum intact. Most people quit because they overreact. One bad day becomes a crisis. One slow week becomes a reason to pivot. Elite performers zoom out. They understand trends matter more than moments. Another critical instruction: do not expand scope during this phase. Expansion feels like progress. It is often avoidance. Adding more tasks, more platforms, more goals, all of it fractures focus. If something is not essential to the core execution loop, it waits. Yes, even good opportunities. Especially good opportunities. Opportunity at the wrong time is distraction. This phase also requires restraint with consumption. You're no longer in learning mode. You're in doing mode. Consuming too much information during execution creates doubt. You start second-guessing, comparing, tweaking endlessly. That kills momentum. Limit input. Increase output. Trust the plan you already chose. Now let's address the internal resistance you will feel. You will feel bored. You will feel impatient. You will feel the urge to optimize. That urge is a trap. Optimization before consistency is premature. First you show up, then you improve, not the other way around. Here is the standard you must hold. Did I follow the rules today? Yes or no? Not, was it my best work? Did it perform well? Did I feel good? Rules first, results later. This phase is where identity begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries. You become someone who executes. That shift is subtle but powerful, because once you trust yourself to follow through, confidence becomes stable, not emotional, not dependent on outcomes. Stable. This is also where momentum becomes visible. Small wins stack. Evidence accumulates. Doubt weakens, not because life gets easier, but because you get steadier. And steadiness beats talent. Here is what you must stop doing during this phase. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop announcing plans. Stop seeking validation. Execution is private. Results are public. Flip that order and you sabotage yourself. The 3-month execution window is sacred. Protect it. Protect your time. Protect your energy. Protect your focus. Because momentum is fragile in the beginning. Once it's established, it carries you. But at the start, it must be defended. At the end of these 3 months, something changes. You don't just have output. You have proof. Proof that you can commit. Proof that you can follow rules. Proof that you can move forward without constant motivation. That proof is more valuable than any result because it prepares you for the next phase. Chapter 5. Systems beat motivation every time. Motivation is a feeling. Feelings fluctuate. Systems are structures. Structures endure. If your progress depends on motivation, your progress is fragile. That is not an opinion. That is a fact. Motivation disappears when you are tired, when you are bored, when results are slow, when life interrupts. And life always interrupts. This is why most people are inconsistent. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel inspired. They wait to feel confident. Elite performers do not wait. They build systems that operate regardless of mood. This chapter is where amateurs separate from professionals, because discipline is not about force. It is about design. If you design your environment correctly, discipline becomes automatic. If you don't, willpower gets exhausted, and you quit. Let's make this simple. Motivation asks, do I feel like doing this today? Systems ask, what happens next? No emotion, no debate, just execution. Here is the core principle you must adopt. Never rely on how you feel to determine what you do. Feelings are weather. Systems are climate. You don't build a life around weather. You build it around climate. This is why saving money automatically beats relying on willpower. The person who says, I'll save whatever is left at the end of the month never saves. The person who automates transfers saves without thinking. Same income, different system, different result. One fights temptation. The other avoids it. Avoidance always wins. Now apply this to every area of your life. Health, work, learning, finances, habits. If you are constantly trying harder, your system is broken. Effort is not the problem. Design is. This chapter will give you 3 core systems you must install. Daily habits, weekly reviews, non-negotiables. Miss any one of these and momentum leaks. Let's start with daily habits. Daily habits should be boring, small, and repeatable. If your daily habits require motivation, they are too big. You don't need heroic routines. You need reliable ones. Ask yourself, what is the smallest action that moves me forward every day? Not impressively, consistently. 10 minutes of focused practice beats 2 hours once a week. 1 page written daily beats bursts of inspiration. Daily habits are not about intensity. They are about identity. Every day you show up, you reinforce who you are becoming. Miss a day and nothing breaks. Miss repeatedly and the system collapses. This is why habits must be easy to start. Lower the barrier. Make it obvious. Make it simple. Make it unavoidable. Same time, same place, same trigger. No thinking required. Now, let's talk about weekly reviews. This is where most people fail quietly. They either don't review at all, or they overanalyze emotionally. Weekly reviews are not therapy sessions. They are performance check-ins. Once a week, you look at your behavior, not your feelings, not your excuses, your behavior. Ask 3 questions only. What did I do consistently? What did I avoid? What needs adjustment next week? That's it. No self-judgment. No dramatic conclusions. You are not good or bad. You are effective or ineffective. Adjust accordingly. Weekly reviews prevent drift. Without them, small mistakes compound. With them, corrections stay small. This is how systems self-correct. Now the third pillar, non-negotiables. This is where discipline becomes real. Non-negotiables are actions you do regardless of mood, circumstances, or excuses. They are not optional. They are not flexible. They are not negotiated. Most people have goals. Very few have non-negotiables. That's why goals stay theoretical. A non-negotiable might be, I train 5 days a week. I review my finances every Sunday. I produce one piece of work daily. I sleep before midnight. These are not wishes. They are rules. Rules remove decision-making, and decision-making drains energy. Here is the key insight. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. If your system is weak, your results will be weak, no matter how motivated you feel today. Now let's address resistance. People resist systems because systems feel restrictive. They want freedom. But here is the truth. Structure creates freedom. Lack of structure creates chaos. When you don't have systems, everything requires effort. When you do, most things run automatically. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. Freedom is not having to think about everything. Elite performers protect their energy by eliminating choices. They eat the same meals. They follow the same routines. They operate within clear rules, not because they lack creativity, but because creativity thrives inside structure. Now let's talk about what you must stop doing immediately. Stop relying on motivation. Stop romanticizing discipline. Stop setting goals without installing systems. If you say, I just need to try harder, you are lying to yourself. Trying harder is not a strategy. Design is. Look at your environment. Does it support your habits or sabotage them? If distractions are easy and progress is hard, you will choose distraction every time. So redesign. Put friction between you and bad habits. Remove friction between you and good ones. Delete apps. Prepare tools in advance. Schedule actions instead of intentions. Make the right choice the easy choice. This is not weakness. This is intelligence. Another critical rule. Do not build too many systems at once. One system at a time. Install it. Stabilize it. Then add another. People fail because they overhaul everything in burnout. Slow installation beats fast collapse. Now let's address consistency. Consistency does not mean never missing a day. It means never missing twice. Miss once, reset immediately. No guilt, no drama. Systems fail when emotion enters. Stay neutral. Stay mechanical. You are not here to feel good. You are here to build something that lasts. Motivation will return, but this time it will ride on top of structure instead of replacing it. That's the difference. Motivation becomes fuel, not the engine. And engines run whether you feel like driving or not. By now, you should understand this clearly. If your life requires constant motivation, it is poorly designed. Fix the design. Daily habits create movement. Weekly reviews create alignment. Non-negotiables create discipline. Together, they create inevitability. This is how progress becomes boring and unstoppable. Chapter 6. The 2-month proof phase. Build evidence, not ego. Confidence does not come from believing harder. It comes from seeing evidence. Affirmations feel good. Proof changes behavior. This phase exists to replace hope with certainty. You are no longer preparing. You are no longer just executing. Now you are validating. The 2-month proof phase is where fantasy dies and reality sharpens you. And that is a good thing. Most people want confidence without confrontation. They want reassurance without results. They want to feel strong without being tested. That is not confidence. That is avoidance. Real confidence is quiet. It is grounded. It does not need approval. And it is built one way only, by doing the thing, measuring the outcome, and adjusting without emotion. This phase is not about expanding. It is about tightening. You are not adding new goals. You are refining what already exists. Here is the core rule of this phase. You do not argue with data. Feelings lie. Data doesn't. If something isn't working, you don't defend it. You fix it. If something is working, you don't overthink it. You repeat it. Ego hates this phase because ego wants credit. Ego wants praise. Ego wants to feel ahead. Proof doesn't care. Proof only asks one question. Did this produce the result or not? This is why confidence built in this phase lasts. It is not emotional. It is earned. Let's talk about measurement. Most people either don't measure at all, or they measure the wrong things. They track likes instead of skill, revenue instead of retention, applause instead of effectiveness. This leads to false confidence. In this phase, measurement must be brutal and relevant. Ask yourself, what outcome actually matters for my goal? What behavior directly influences that outcome? Track those. Nothing else. If you are building a skill, measure competence. If you are building an audience, measure consistency and response. If you are building income, measure sustainability, not spikes. Spikes inflate ego. Sustainability builds confidence. This is where public speaking is a perfect example. Public speaking does not improve through visualization. It improves through exposure and feedback. Short feedback loops, clear critique, immediate adjustment. Most people avoid this. They practice alone. They imagine success. They avoid being evaluated. Then they wonder why confidence collapses on stage. Confidence follows competence. Competence comes from correction. Correction requires feedback, and feedback requires humility. This phase demands humility. You must be willing to see your weaknesses clearly, not to shame yourself, to sharpen yourself. This is where you tighten weak areas. Look at your execution honestly. Where are you inconsistent? Where are results lagging? Where are you avoiding discomfort? These are not character flaws. They are signals. Signals telling you where to focus. The mistake people make here is emotional reaction. They see weakness and panic. They see slow progress and quit. They see criticism and defend. Do none of that. Stay neutral. Weakness is not a verdict. It is a direction. Now, let's talk about frequency. 2 months is long enough to see patterns, short enough to stay intense. During this phase, feedback should be frequent, not overwhelming. Frequent, daily microfeedback, weekly hard reviews, bi-weekly adjustments. Do not wait months to evaluate. Delayed feedback delays growth. Short loops accelerate learning. This is where momentum becomes solid, not because results explode, but because doubt collapses. You stop guessing. You know what works because you've seen it work. You know what doesn't because you've tested it. That certainty is grounding. Now here is something you must stop doing immediately. Stop protecting your ego. Ego protection looks like this: explaining instead of listening, justifying instead of adjusting, hiding data instead of facing it. Ego turns feedback into threat. Proof turns feedback into information. Choose proof. This phase also requires narrowing your comparisons. Stop comparing yourself to people outside your phase. Compare yourself to your past data. Are metrics improving? Are mistakes decreasing? Is execution cleaner? That is progress. External comparison creates noise. Internal comparison creates clarity. Another critical instruction: do not chase validation during this phase. Validation distorts behavior. You start performing for approval instead of outcomes. You exaggerate strengths. You hide weaknesses. You avoid experimentation. That kills learning. This phase is private. Do the work quietly. Let evidence accumulate. When confidence arrives, it will not need announcing. It will show in how you move. Now let's address resistance. This phase can feel uncomfortable because data removes excuses. You can no longer say, "I think I'm doing okay." You either are or you aren't. That clarity can sting. Good. Discomfort here saves years later. Better to face reality now than live in delusion longer. Here is a practical framework you must apply. At the end of each week, answer these 3 questions. What produced the best result? What consistently underperformed? What is one small change I will test next week? Only one change. Do not overhaul everything. Overhauls are emotional. Adjustments are strategic. Test, measure, repeat. This phase builds self-respect because you stop lying to yourself. You stop pretending effort equals effectiveness. You respect reality enough to adapt. That is maturity. And maturity builds confidence faster than hype ever could. By the end of these 2 months, something important happens. You no longer wonder if you can do this. You know, you've seen yourself show up. You've seen yourself adjust. You've seen yourself improve. That evidence changes how you speak, how you decide, how you lead. Confidence becomes calm, not loud, not forced. Calm. This is also where many people make a fatal mistake. They get early proof and rush to expand. They see progress and immediately add more. More projects, more commitments, more pressure. Do not do this. Proof is not permission to overload. Proof is permission to stabilize. Lock in what works. Protect it. Reinforce it. Expansion comes later. Right now, consolidation is power. The 2-month proof phase is not glamorous. There are no viral moments here. No sudden transformations. But this is where identity solidifies. You stop hoping you are capable. You know you are capable. And knowing changes everything. Chapter 7. Self-control is the multiplier. You can have the right plan. You can execute consistently. You can even see proof that it's working and still lose everything. How? Leakage. Progress does not disappear all at once. It leaks slowly, through impulse, through distraction, through emotional decisions you justify in the moment. This is why self-control is the multiplier. Without it, effort evaporates. With it, effort compounds. Self-control is not about restriction. It is about protection. Protection of your time. Protection of your energy. Protection of your money. Protection of your attention. Most people focus on earning more, doing more, trying harder. They ignore leakage. And leakage destroys more progress than lack of effort ever will. Here's the core truth. You don't need massive wins to change your life. You need to stop bleeding. Wealth is not built by earning more. It is built by leaking less. The same is true for focus, confidence, and momentum. Let's break this down clearly. By domain, first, money. Most people think their financial problem is income. It's not. It's behavior. They earn. They leak. They repeat. Small leaks feel harmless. Subscriptions, impulse buys, lifestyle inflation. Individually, they look insignificant. Together, they destroy momentum. Self-control with money is not about deprivation. It is about intentionality. You decide where money goes before emotion gets involved. Automatic saving, clear budgets, delayed gratification. You remove choice at the moment of temptation. If you wait to decide in the moment, you've already lost. Willpower is weak under pressure. Systems protect you. This is why disciplined people look naturally good with money. They are not smarter. They are not luckier. They leak less. Second, time. Time leakage is more dangerous than money leakage. You can earn more money. You cannot earn more time. Time leaks through distraction, scrolling, multitasking. Busy work disguised as productivity. Most people do not lack time. They lack boundaries. They say yes too easily. They check notifications constantly. They let other people's urgency dictate their focus. Self-control with time means you decide in advance what deserves attention. Not everything that demands attention deserves it. Here's a rule you must adopt. If it doesn't move your current phase forward, it waits. No guilt, No explanation. Waiting is not ignoring. It is prioritizing. Protecting time will feel uncomfortable at first. People will be surprised. Some will be offended. That's the cost of focus. Pay it. Third, emotions. This is where most people lose control. Emotions drive decisions faster than logic. You feel tired, so you skip. You feel frustrated, so you quit. You feel excited, so you overcommit. Emotional decisions are rarely aligned with long-term goals. Self-control with emotions does not mean suppression. It means delay. You feel the emotion. You do not act on it immediately. You pause. Emotion peaks. Emotion fades. Clarity returns. Elite performers do not eliminate emotion. They refuse to let it drive. They create distance between feeling and action. This is a skill, and like all skills, it must be trained. The simplest method is this. When emotion hits, do nothing. No texts, no emails, no decisions. Give yourself time. Most mistakes are made in moments of emotional urgency. Delay is a weapon. Use it. Fourth, attention. Attention is the most valuable resource you have, and it is under constant attack. Apps, notifications, news, opinions. Everyone wants your attention because attention creates influence. If you don't control it, someone else will. Self-control with attention means you decide what enters your mind. What you consume shapes how you think. How you think shapes how you act. If your attention is scattered, your results will be scattered. You must be ruthless here. Limit inputs. Curate information. Reduce noise. Most people consume far more than they create. That imbalance weakens focus. Creation strengthens clarity. Consume less. Produce more. Now, let's talk about why self-control multiplies progress. Imagine two people with identical effort. Same goals, same skills, same systems. One leaks constantly, the other doesn't. Over time, the difference becomes massive. The disciplined person doesn't just move forward faster. They move forward cleaner. Less recovery, less fixing mistakes, less rebuilding. Momentum stays intact. This is compounding. Small acts of restraint repeated daily create massive separation over time. This is why self-control looks boring in the moment, but powerful later. Now here's what self-control is not. It is not white-knuckling through life. It is not saying no to everything. It is not becoming rigid and joyless. Self-control is choosing deliberately. You still enjoy things, but intentionally. You still rest, but strategically. You still spend, but consciously. The difference is ownership. You are in control, not impulse. Here is what you must stop doing immediately. Stop trusting your future self to be more disciplined than you are now. That is a lie. If something requires discipline later, design it now. Remove temptation. Add friction. Create rules. Stop negotiating with yourself. Negotiation is where discipline dies. Every time you argue internally, you drain energy. Rules eliminate arguments. Decide once. Execute repeatedly. Now here is a practical exercise you must apply. Identify your biggest leak in each category. Money. Where does it quietly disappear? Time. What steals focus daily? Emotions. Which feelings derail you most? Attention. What consumes you without giving back? Write them down. Then design one control for each. Not 10. 1. Example. Automatic saving for money. Time blocks for focus. Delay rules for emotions. App limits for attention. Simple. Effective. Self-control is not built overnight, but it strengthens quickly when you see results. Every time you resist a leak, you gain confidence. Every time you protect momentum, you gain trust in yourself. This trust is powerful because you stop fearing success. Many people sabotage progress unconsciously because they don't trust themselves to handle it. Self-control removes that fear. You know you won't blow it. You know you won't self-destruct. That stability allows growth. This is why self-control multiplies everything. Effort becomes efficient. Progress becomes durable. Success becomes sustainable. Without it, you keep starting over. With it, you keep building. Chapter 8. The 1-month identity lock. Become the person who finishes. This is a final month, not the most exciting, the most important, because this month is not about doing more. It is about becoming someone different. Up to now, you have built direction. You executed with discipline. You proved to yourself that progress is real. You controlled the leaks. Now comes the part most people never reach. Identity. Most people try to change outcomes without changing identity. That never lasts. They act disciplined, but don't see themselves as disciplined. They work hard, but don't believe they finish things. They succeed temporarily, but relapse permanently. This month ends that cycle. The 1-month identity lock exists to answer one question. Who are you when no one is watching and nothing is urgent? That answer determines everything that comes next. Here is the truth most people avoid. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. If you still see yourself as someone who quits, hesitates, or procrastinates, your behavior will eventually match that belief, no matter how good your plan is. This month is about locking in a new self-image through evidence, not hype, not affirmations, not motivation, repetition and reflection. That's how identity changes. People who become disciplined stop negotiating with themselves. They don't wake up and ask, should I do this today? They wake up and do it, not because they feel strong, because it's who they are now. This is what you are building. Let's get one thing clear immediately. Identity is not what you say. It is what you repeatedly do without debate. Every time you hesitate, argue internally, or delay, you reinforce the old identity. Every time you act without drama, you reinforce the new one. This month is about removing drama. No pushing, no forcing, no intensity. Calm execution. Here is how this phase works. First, nothing new is added. No new goals. No new habits. No new systems. If you add, you dilute. This month is consolidation. You do the same things, the same way, at the same times. Repetition is what hardens identity. Second, reflection becomes mandatory. Action builds evidence. Reflection turns evidence into belief. Without reflection, progress stays external. With reflection, it becomes internal. At the end of each day, you ask one question. Did I act like the person I am becoming today? Yes or no? No stories. No explanations. Just awareness. Awareness changes behavior faster than pressure. Now, let's talk about finishing. Most people start strong. Very few finish clean. Finishing is not about energy. It's about resolve. The final month exposes something uncomfortable. Fatigue. Not physical. Mental. The excitement is gone. The novelty is gone. The audience is gone. This is where identity is revealed. People who rely on motivation fade here. People who rely on identity remain steady. You must expect this flatness. It is not a problem. It is a test. Can you continue without stimulation? That is the difference between amateurs and professionals. Professionals don't need excitement to finish. They need standards. This month is about standards. Standards are not goals. They are rules for behavior. For example, I don't skip. I don't negotiate. I finish what I start. These are not motivational statements. They are identity statements. You don't try to follow them. You are someone who follows them. Now here's the hard part. You must stop explaining yourself. Explaining is a sign of internal doubt. I was busy. I had a rough day. I'll make up for it tomorrow. All explanations reinforce the identity of someone who negotiates. The new identity does not explain. It adjusts quietly. It resumes immediately. It moves on. This is what discipline actually looks like. Calm, predictable, unemotional. During this month, your behavior should look boring. That's a good sign. Boring behavior creates extraordinary results over time. Now let's talk about language. Language shapes identity. Listen to how you speak to yourself. Do you say, "I'm trying"? "I hope"? "I want to"? Those are weak identity signals. Replace them with, "I do", "I don't", "I finish." Not aggressively. Factually, this is not fake confidence. It is precise language. Precision builds clarity. Another instruction for this phase: reduce external input even further. You don't need more ideas. You don't need more advice. You need reinforcement of what already works. Consume less. Execute quietly. Reflect daily. This is where confidence stabilizes, not excitement. Stability. Stability is what allows leadership, wealth, and long-term growth. Now here is something critical you must do. At the end of this month, you must close the loop. You review the entire cycle. 6 months of direction, 3 months of execution, 2 months of proof, 1 month of identity lock. You look at who you were and who you are now, not emotionally, objectively. Ask yourself, what do I do now that I couldn't do before? What behaviors no longer require effort? What excuses no longer feel believable? These answers matter because they define the new baseline. From this point forward, you do not fall below this baseline. This is how identity sticks. Most people relapse because they don't mark completion. They finish something, but don't acknowledge it. So the brain doesn't register change. You must mark it, not with celebration, with recognition. This is who I am now. Quiet, firm. Now let's address fear. Some people sabotage at the end because success feels unfamiliar. They unconsciously return to old patterns because those patterns feel safe. This is where identity lock matters. You do not ask if you deserve a new level. You accept it. Deserving is irrelevant. Consistency earned it. Now here is what you must stop doing forever. Stop treating discipline like a phase. Discipline is not something you turn on and off. It is part of your identity now. You may rest. You may slow down, but you do not revert. This is the difference between change and transformation. Change is temporary. Transformation is permanent, and permanence comes from identity. At the end of this month, something subtle but powerful happens. You stop fearing starting new cycles because you trust yourself to finish. That trust is everything. It removes hesitation. It removes self-doubt. It removes the need for hype. You move calmly into the next phase of your life, not because you are perfect, but because you are consistent. And consistency beats intensity every time. Chapter 9. Why this formula makes failure almost impossible. Failure is not usually dramatic. It is quiet. It is slow. It is ignored. People don't fail because they fall once. They fail because they drift for months and call it patience. This formula prevents that, not by making you perfect, but by making failure visible, correctable, and temporary. Short cycles prevent burnout. Long vision prevents panic. Together, they eliminate the two forces that destroy progress: burnout and panic. Burnout happens when effort has no boundaries. Panic happens when vision has no structure. Most people live in one of these extremes. They either grind endlessly with no clear endpoint, or they dream endlessly with no daily discipline. Both paths fail. This system works because it creates balance, pressure with relief, urgency with patience, action with reflection. Let's be precise. The reason this formula makes failure almost impossible is not because everything goes right. It's because when something goes wrong, it doesn't destroy the whole structure. The system self-corrects. Most people build fragile plans. One mistake ruins everything. One bad month collapses confidence. One missed goal becomes a reason to quit. That's not resilience. That's wishful thinking. Resilient systems expect failure and contain it. This formula does exactly that. Here's how. First, short cycles cap damage. 3 months, 2 months, 1 month. These windows are short enough to notice problems early. You don't wait a year to realize something isn't working. You don't suffer in silence for months. You don't compound mistakes. You review. You adjust. You continue. This prevents burnout. Burnout happens when effort continues without feedback. You push. You push. You push. But nothing changes. So energy drains. Hope drains. Identity collapses. Short cycles interrupt that pattern. They force pauses. Not breaks. Pauses. Pauses are where intelligence enters. Second, long vision prevents panic. The 6-month vision does something critical. It stops you from overreacting. When you have a long enough horizon, short-term setbacks lose power. A bad week doesn't shake you. A slow month doesn't scare you, because you know where you're going. Panic comes from uncertainty. When people don't know the plan, every problem feels existential. Is this working? Am I wasting time? Should I quit? The long vision answers those questions in advance. You are not guessing. You are executing a phase. This calms the nervous system. Calm creates consistency. Now let's talk about self-correction. This is where the system outperforms raw discipline. Raw discipline says, push harder. Systems say, adjust intelligently. Leaders who course correct monthly outperform those who wait yearly. Why? Because small corrections prevent big failures. Monthly correction keeps alignment tight. You don't let small inefficiencies become permanent habits. You don't let weak strategies calcify. You fix things while they're cheap to fix. Most people wait. They wait because they fear admitting something isn't working. They tie identity to plans. So when a plan fails, they feel like failures. This system separates identity from strategy. You are not your plan. You are the operator of the plan. If a tactic fails, you change it. You don't shame yourself. This keeps momentum alive. Another reason failure becomes unlikely: compartmentalization. Each phase has a job. Direction phase is for clarity. Execution phase is for consistency. Proof phase is for evidence. Identity phase is for locking behavior. If execution feels messy, you don't panic. You know clarity already exists. If confidence wobbles, you don't fake positivity. You know proof is coming. If discipline feels heavy, you don't force intensity. You rely on identity. Problems stay in their lane. They don't infect the entire system. Most people let one issue contaminate everything. A bad financial month becomes an identity crisis. A missed habit becomes self-hatred. A slow result becomes abandonment. This system isolates issues. Isolation prevents collapse. Now let's talk about expectations. Failure often comes from unrealistic expectations. People expect linear progress. They expect constant motivation. They expect visible wins. When reality doesn't match fantasy, they quit. This formula sets realistic expectations. You expect boredom. You expect resistance. You expect dips. Nothing surprises you. Surprise is what destabilizes people. Prepared minds don't panic. Another critical point. This system builds trust with yourself. Trust eliminates sabotage. Many people unconsciously sabotage progress because they don't trust themselves to handle success. They fear responsibility. They fear consistency. They fear maintaining standards. So they break momentum on purpose. This formula rebuilds self-trust slowly. You prove to yourself that you can. Commit for 6 months. Execute for 3. Measure honestly for 2. Finish cleanly for 1. That sequence rewires your self-image. You stop fearing long-term effort. Fear causes quitting. Trust causes continuation. Now, let's be honest. This system does not eliminate difficulty. You will still face setbacks. You will still have bad days, bad weeks, bad moments. The difference is this. Setbacks no longer mean failure. They mean data. Data is useful. Failure is paralyzing. When you treat setbacks as data, you stay engaged. Engagement beats perfection. Now here is what you must do to keep failure unlikely. First, never skip reviews. Reviews are the immune system. Weekly reviews catch infections early. Monthly reviews correct direction. Phase reviews lock learning. If you stop reviewing, drift returns. Second, never merge phases. Don't plan while executing. Don't execute while reflecting. Don't expand while stabilizing. Mixed phases create confusion. Confusion creates frustration. Frustration leads to quitting. Honor the structure. Third, never judge the system mid-phase. Judgment creates doubt. Doubt creates hesitation. Hesitation breaks momentum. Evaluate only at designated points. Outside those points, you execute. Fourth, never personalize setbacks. Say this clearly. This didn't work. Not, I failed. Language matters. Identity stays intact. Now, let's address a common fear. What if a phase goes badly? Good. That's when the system proves its value. A bad phase doesn't ruin the year. It informs the next cycle. You learn. You adjust. You rerun. This is how mastery is built. No one wins every cycle. But those who run cycles consistently outperform those who wait for perfect conditions. Waiting is fragile. Cycles are durable. This is why leaders who course correct monthly outperform those who wait yearly. They stay relevant. They stay aligned. They stay moving. Now understand this. Failure is not impossible. It is contained. And contained failure is growth. The real failure is refusing to adjust. This system makes adjustment unavoidable. That's the secret. It removes ego from progress. It replaces drama with design. Design beats willpower. Design beats motivation. Design beats talent. By now, you should see this clearly. You are no longer relying on hope. You are operating a machine with feedback loops, with safety mechanisms, with correction built in. Machines don't panic. They recalibrate. So, do you? Chapter 10. Run this system for 1 year, and you'll never think the same again. One cycle changes behavior. Multiple cycles change destiny. That is not motivational language. That is structural truth. Most people never change because they rely on singular breakthroughs. One big year, one big win, one big transformation. That fantasy keeps them stuck. Real change happens through repetition, through stacking cycles, through letting time work for you instead of against you. This final chapter is about permanence, not intensity, not hustle, not grinding harder. Permanence. If you run the system for 1 year, fully, honestly, without skipping phases, you will not recognize the way you think anymore. Because your thinking will no longer be emotional. It will be strategic. You will stop asking, what should I do today? And start asking, what phase am I in That shift alone changes everything. Let's break this down clearly. A single cycle gives you momentum. 2 cycles give you confidence. 3 cycles give you identity. 4 cycles give you authority. By the end of 1 year, you are no longer experimenting. You are operating. Most people live reactively. They respond to urgency, stress, and pressure. You will live proactively. You move based on structure, timing, and intention. That is leadership. Over yourself first, then others. Now here's the mistake you must avoid. Do not treat the system like a challenge. Challenges end. Systems continue. This is not a 90-day sprint. It is a way of operating. Each year becomes a container for multiple cycles. You don't rush them. You don't force them. You run them cleanly. Here is how stacking cycles actually works. You begin the year with a 6-month vision. Not vague, not inspirational. Specific. What direction are you committing to for the next 6 months? Career, wealth, skill, health, leadership. One direction, not 5. Clarity multiplies effort. Then you execute for 3 months. Same rules as before. Narrow focus, non-negotiable habits, consistent output. You don't expand early. You don't chase novelty. You let momentum build quietly. Then you enter the 2-month proof phase. This is where most people skip ahead emotionally. They feel successful, but don't measure. You measure revenue, skill level, behavior consistency, feedback. Numbers don't lie. Ego does. Then comes the 1-month identity lock. You don't celebrate wildly. You consolidate. You ask, what kind of person did I become running this cycle? You let that identity settle. Then, and only then, you decide what the next cycle will build on top of it. This is critical. Each cycle builds on the previous one. You don't reset to 0. You raise the floor. That's how compounding works. Most people think compounding is about money. It's not. It's about behavior. Small monthly wins compound into authority, wealth, and leadership because they raise your standards permanently. You stop tolerating chaos. You stop tolerating inconsistency. You stop tolerating excuses. Not aggressively. Naturally, your nervous system adapts. Your expectations change. Now let's talk about time. People say they want freedom, but they live without structure. That's why time controls them. This system gives you something rare. Predictability. You know when to plan. You know when to execute. You know when to evaluate. You know when to lock identity. This reduces cognitive load. Less thinking. More doing. Mental energy is preserved. Preserved energy gets reinvested into higher level thinking. That's how leaders are made. Not through constant effort, but through intelligent pacing. Now here's a truth you need to hear. After 1 year of running the system, you will become impatient with randomness. You will notice when people speak without direction, when plans lack structure, when effort has no phase. You won't judge them, but you won't copy them either. Your tolerance for chaos will drop. That's growth. This is also where wealth begins to compound. Not because you suddenly make more money, but because you stop leaking it. You plan expenses in cycles. You invest with time horizons. You stop emotional spending. Wealth is built by long-term thinking applied consistently. The system trains that thinking. Now, let's talk about leadership. Leadership is not charisma. It's reliability. People trust those who finish, who don't panic, who adjust calmly. After a year of cycles, you become that person, not because you talk louder, but because your behavior is stable. Stability attracts responsibility. Responsibility creates influence. Influence creates opportunity. This is how authority is built. Quietly. Now here is the final instruction. Do not over-optimize. This system works because it is simple. When people over-optimize, They complicate. Complication kills consistency. Run the system as designed. Clarity, execution, proof, identity. Repeat. You do not need to improve the system. You need to run it. Most people fail because they are always redesigning instead of executing. Stop redesigning your life every month. Start running cycles. Here is what you must stop doing forever. Stop reacting to the calendar emotionally. January panic, March doubt, June burnout, September regret. Those patterns disappear when time is structured. Months become tools, not threats. You stop fearing time passing because time is now working in your favor. That is a profound shift. Now imagine this. 1 year from now, not perfect, not flawless, but calm, consistent, clear. You trust yourself. You know how to reset without collapsing. You know how to push without burning out. You know how to finish. That version of you does not think the same. They don't ask motivational questions. They ask operational ones. What's the next cycle? What's a priority? What gets eliminated? That is the mindset of builders. That is the mindset of leaders. That is the mindset of people who create wealth, not just income. Now here is your final challenge. Do not listen to this audiobook and feel inspired. Inspiration fades. Structure stays. Decide today that you will run one full cycle. 6 months. 3 months. 2 months. 1 month. No skipping. No blending. No quitting. Just execution. If you do that fully, you will never see time, effort, or success the same way again. One cycle will change how you behave. A year of cycles will change who you are. And once your identity changes, your destiny follows. Run the system, then run it again. This is not the end. This is the operating system for the rest of your life. Real progress doesn't come from doing everything at once. It comes from knowing what to focus on and when to focus on it. The 6-3-2 1-month formula is a reminder that success is built quietly, step by step, month by month. When you align your effort with a thoughtful plan, momentum becomes natural and results begin to compound without stress or burnout. As you move forward, take these ideas with you. Simplify your goals. Respect your time. Trust the process. One well-planned year can truly reshape your future. Thank you for listening. If this audiobook added value to your journey, feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Growth Listen. Your support helps this community continue to grow. Stay focused, stay consistent, and keep building unstoppable momentum.